Welcome to the interview on France 24. Our guest today is Mr. Hamadi Jebali, former Tunisian Prime Minister and Secretary General of Ennahda. Welcome to France 24.
Welcome, and welcome to your viewers everywhere.
Quite a number of people, 2 years after the elections, the Constituent Assembly consider that the results generated by Ennahda are quite catastrophic.
First of all, it's normal that the opposing party would say that it's catastrophic.
So do the Tunisians.
But you need proof for that. You have to prove that. And proof can only come from the ballot box. I said to everyone that we have had difficulties. We've had difficulties during the revolution and because of the revolution, but also in management and because of the situations, both economic and security-related and political situations. I'm not trying to get around my responsibility or the troikas, but that responsibility belongs to everyone, both in the ANC, the opposition, and the trade unions.
Now, after 2 years, you keep believing in the troika and the myth.
Absolutely. This is a great step forward for the country. History will bear us out in the fact that our country has surmounted its difficulties. After 2 years without collapsing, the institutions have continued to work. The country has accomplished certain things and failed in others. But the most important thing is that we have preserved the hope of the revolution and of the reform, and that's what we're doing now.
When having a look at the security situation, the situation is quite difficult, if not dangerous.
The security situation is not specific to Tunisia, let's remember. And I can say that the security situation in our country has improved, thanks to the improvement in the great work of our security forces. But we have to talk about the dangers that are coming from the outside, and also the interior situation which has deteriorated because of our conflicts, because of our problems. This has complicated things enormously, but I'm convinced that the Tunisian people will thrive.
How do you explain the Impala events and 3 major officials were chased away from the funerals of Tunisian soldiers?
This is not a security issue. When I talk about a security issue, I'm talking basically of those who have taken up arms against society. And I can say that they are now backing down. They have been totally defeated morally. But those you're talking about is what feeds into that violence. That's what feeds into the aggression and the taking up of arms. You're talking about a rebellion. This is very clearly a rebellion against state institutions. It's not a troika. This is really a shame for Tunisia. And when we talk about the government, we need to respect the symbols, whatever symbols they may be.
What is left of the Tunisian state?
Security or security forces are not responsible. It's the trade unions. Trade unions have obviously social claims that need to be made, but there's a lot of politicization. We've seen in the approaches of those that we call trade unions, they become very political, which is dangerous. There are political interests that encourage this type of behavior. Before, we used to criticize Ennahda, and they were saying that our party had infiltrated the security forces. But what do we see now? We are seeing today political figures that are getting involved in security.
You talked about the security situation. You talked about your neighbors. Let's now talk of Libya. And we're now going to talk about accusations leveled against Abdelhakim Belhadj. What do you say to those people accusing you of being close to that person? He also visited you at the hospital.
Let's not talk about those who say such things. What you've heard, I've heard the same thing. To imply that Belhadj is involved as an outside element, that he's involved in our political life, is very dangerous.
You're hence exonerating Belhadj.
Mr. Belaj came on a visit that was almost an official visit. He played an important role in the revolution in Libya. He had relationships with the Tunisian government at the time, Mr. Badji, and with the Tunisian army. He fought against despotism, and all of a sudden, he's a terrorist? For reasons that are internal to our country. Unfortunately, things are being mixed up today, and these are very serious accusations.
Weapons were transferred from Libya to Tunisia.
Who denies that? Who denies that? Before the fall of Gaddafi, he had prepared armed groups to surround Tunisia. Today, Gaddafi's arsenal goes partly through Tunisia and partly through Algeria, but this is nothing new. But who are we accusing? The government? The Troika? Who are you accusing exactly?
Do you regret handing Baghdadi Mahmoudi over to Libya?
I have no regrets. It's the best thing I could have done. First of all, I would like to recuse the declarations that those that say that I was handing him over to death, to certain death.
He was handed over to a country without state of law, without a constitution.
No, let's not mix things up here.
Is there a law now in Libya, even at that time?
I didn't hand him over now, but when I did hand him over, there was a government with recognized institutions and laws and a government. And today, Baghdadi lives under better conditions than those he had here. I did my duty to the Tunisian people, to my government, and to the Libyan people. Today, Baghdadi is in the hands of Libyan justice, and they are going to be deciding.
You handed him over without discussing the matter with the president.
Let's not get into these questions. I consulted the president. We did not agree, and I played my role and my duty according under the Constitution, and I have nothing to feel guilty about.
You got no regrets.
I did my duty in order to save our relationship and on the principle of the thing. This was an accused person whose guilt was subsequently proven. And Tunisian justice also decided to hand him over. That's why I did my duty to the Tunisian and Libyan people.
Let's now talk about Ennahda after 2 years in power. Now you're saying that you still believe in the Troika, but within Ennahda it seems that neither the Secretary General of Ennahda nor the President of Ennahda have great power, knowing that each time either one or the other makes a decision, the Council is not shackled by any of those statements.
We don't need proof to demonstrate that Ennahda is a democratic party unparalleled in Tunisia, and I'm going to give you some facts about that. We have decisions that are taken by vote based on processes that don't exist in other parties, and you know very well that in the past I criticized Ennahda, and I had resigned subsequent to certain things that everyone is aware of. But let's speak frankly. Ennahda today is a party that fulfills a positive role towards its people, both in national dialogue and for the success of the process. That's why I rejoined Ennahda, and I talked with Ghanouchi, and I got closer to the Prime Minister, Narayad, because I saw that the party had adopted a positive orientation to get out of the Tunisian crisis and to succeed in the democratic transition process towards democracy in our country. Those who interfere with the process are not Ennahda, it's the other parties. The position of Ennahda is clear. Let's summarize the facts. Our country needs for the transition process to be a success.
For example, you tried opting for a strategy, and you faced up to an opposition within your movement insofar as the setup of a technocratic government, and the difficulties actually stem from Ennahda. Ennahda is actually beating about the bush.
I'm going to explain it to you. I don't defend Ennahda or anyone else.
You are supporting Ennahda.
Well, I defend Ennahda because it's the truth. There has been a deformation of respective roles. I can cite the press release by the opposition party Call for Tunis, which torpedoes the initiative of the National Trade Union. Nobody talks about that.
But you did backpedal on the 3-week deadline.
Well, we'll get back to that. Ennahda, through its president, its institutions, and the prime minister, have accepted the principle of resignation after 3 weeks. But what's the most important thing for the Tunisian citizen today and for Tunisia? Let me finish. What's the most important thing? That the government resign? That's only a means to an end. It's an instrument. What's important for the people is to set deadlines, dates, and to prepare and draft the constitution. The purpose is not just to chase Ennahda out of power. That's not the objective. If that's the objective, then things are upside down. Our position with respect to resignation is clear. The government committed to resigning. But how can we commit if the others don't commit to accomplishing their duty? Those things are more important for the Tunisian people.
We talked about this quite extensively. Let's now go on to another issue. Some people are saying that Hamadi Jebali is somewhat concentrating on Ennahda, but he's mostly focused on the forthcoming presidential elections as a candidate.
My role currently at Ennahda is to work on the success of our country, and after, I'll think about my future afterwards. If I might even decide to take a break.
You are hence going to step down as General Secretary.
It's too early to talk about that. Today, I'm trying to accomplish my duty. Despite my state of health and the difficulties, I am working for the success of the country and not for my party, my country. Unfortunately, our country is torn between partisan interests and personal interests, and personal interests make it so that everyone is running after the presidency.
Thank you, Mr. Jebali, and thank you for watching this edition of The Interview on France 24.